But listen, if you have any questions at all while we're talking about this, you can either unmute yourself and ask, or you can, just send something in the chat. And just so that we don't miss out on that particular part, what I'm going to do is, this is kind of a new layout for me, so I need to figure it out. Oh, okay, so it's got its own like little chat thing here. You can send in a chat here. There we go. So that was addressed to everybody, so everybody should be able to see that. So anyway, we're talking about merge fields today, and like I said, when you're a new user, it's very easy to just kind of not get everything all at once. And so that's what we're talking about today. And, a merge field, generally speaking, like this isn't some sort of textbook definition, but a merge field is essentially a placeholder for information that I want Realvolve to insert for me. I could use a merge field for the price of a home or the street address of a home that I'm selling or buying. I could use a merge field to automatically insert someone's birthday if I wanted to. There's so many different things that I can use merge fields for. Mark just actually put a document in the chat. We're probably going to also include that in the Facebook post later whenever I post the recording. But the first thing that I really want to talk about with merge fields, and you all should be able to see my screen, is just a really simple breakdown. So the first thing that we want to make sure that we've got straight in Realvolve is that you have 3 essential databases in Realvolve. Now it's all one big database, but we could divide it into 3. You have a contact database. That's of course where we keep our contacts. You have a listing or property database, and you have a transaction database. Now the transaction database, just to make sure that we're clear, is when you are contract to close or fully executed contract, or when you go into escrow, whatever terminology you use, or when you are binding. That's another way to maybe think of it. That's what we call it here in Georgia. So anyway, those are the 3 categories that we work with in Realvolve for the most part: contacts, properties or listings, and transactions. Now, that being said, if we go into our workflows, you're going to notice that we have a contact icon here for contact workflows. You have a property icon, and you have a transaction icon. So there are contact, property, and transaction workflows that you can use, and they're different. Well, similarly to all that, we're going to go into our templates area, and you have both. Well, we actually have your template sort of divided up in a lot of different ways. Like, for example, if you were to click here, you can filter by, now I'm just looking at text message templates that I've got. But once again, though, you have contact templates, property templates, and transaction templates. So the reason that that's so important to understand is that you also have contact, property, and transaction merge fields. That's very important to keep in mind. You cannot use a property merge field or a transaction merge field for a personal type thing. So let's just talk about merge fields generally, and I'm going to show you a merge field just so that you can really see the power of it. Let's go back to our dashboard and let's find a listing of mine. We're going to go to this little house icon, and we're going to look at, let's see, I know I've got it in here somewhere. Well, we'll just look at 110 East Freeman. That's my old house before I moved. And we're in pre-listing here. And you'll notice if I go to my listing tab, all this information that I've got put in here. I've got a summary. Now, Mark's been to my old house. He knows that this is not the case. House was built in 06. So it was probably built
I wouldn't say differently.
Mm-hmm. But it's got a summary. It's got some unique features. It's got important listing notes. It's got some details, but not a bunch. It's even got some important dates. Now, a lot of these are, past date. It's been a while since I've played around with this one. But here's the thing. This is where I want to just show you from the start the power of what merge fields can do. So let's say, the owner of 110 East Freeman gives me a call, and I check out the property, and we go and have a listing appointment. And in that listing appointment, we go ahead and decide, yeah, we're going to go ahead and list this house for Michael, or for our seller. I'm going to go back into Realvolve, and I'm going to check up. And I've probably already filled in some of the summary and features and notes and dates and details. But once I've done that, wouldn't it be nice if I could just start getting the ball rolling? Well, one way that you could do it is to use a template with merge fields. So let me just show you an example. Let's click on my little texting icon here, and let's enter in a phone number. So let's enter in 417-599-1693. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to use this sample photo order. Now, I'm going to zoom in just a smidge. Okay. So this template, this pre-written message that I have has, hey, new listing, need photos ASAP. And then what it has here is likely listing date. And then it has this bracketed item. This, we're finally getting to it, is a merge field. And you'll see what it says. Property hashtag listing date, street address, property hashtag street address, important notes, all these things right here. Let me know when you can begin. Okay, that's not what the recipient's going to see. If I click show preview, this is what my recipient is going to see. Hey, new listing, need photos ASAP, likely listing date, street address, important listing notes. They have a dog that's very friendly, but also very big. Close to the lake, great gazebo in the back, beautiful landscaping. Dave and Melissa Jennings, HOA info. HOA manager is a real pill. If he doesn't know your car, he'll roll up on you. Let me know who you are. Okay, we've all been there, right? I was actually out with my wife. She was looking at a listing that she was doing, and that exact thing happened. That's what inspired that. So anyway, we're going to send that. And that right there. Oh, check it out, everybody.
This is the real time saver, guys. Whenever you're dealing with something that you do repetitively, if you do this more than one time, it would behoove you to make a template for it. Use those merge fields on a regular basis, and your Kendall Young used to always say your day is wasted in 5-minute increments. If you were going to send that and you were manually typing in that information, it would take you about 5 minutes to, type in all the stuff, look it up, type it in, and yet you can use the merge fields just to blast it out within seconds.
That's right. And I'm not saying this to embarrass my wife, but I watch my wife daily work in real estate. She's a KW agent here in Gainesville, Georgia, and I watch her on her phone. And I could watch her type out a text message that looks a lot like that to send to her photographer. His name is Jojo. And I kid you not, watching her type that would probably take her about 15 to 20 minutes, because we've got kids, we've got things all happening. But my goodness, what if you can just log into Realvolve and you can use the power of merge fields to autofill that in? Any redundant task, just like Mark said, is exactly what we're talking about wanting to do. So here's the thing that I think that everybody should understand about Realvolve just from the get-go. Currently, I'm in a listing or a property. If I were to go into a contact record, for example, and I would go into, we'll just look at Beth Homebuyer here. She's our Zillow lead. And if I were to go into the contact record, any field that we fill in can become a merge field in Realvolve. Any. So, just as an example, if we were to go into a transaction now, right? Let's go to 1076 Holly Drive. We'll go into our transaction tab. Any of these important dates that I would fill in, like the closing date, any of these information, or any of this information, for example, like earnest deposit 1. Let's say earnest deposit 1. How much is that? $265? Yeah, so earnest deposit 1 probably be about $2,500, right? I could have the information that I just input into earnest 1 automatically fit into a merge field if I choose. The real question is whether we're doing messages to our contacts, or I think personally, especially when we're dealing with listings and transactions, that's where they really shine. Frankly, I don't actually want you using that many merge fields when you're dealing with a contact. I would prefer that you just, write a personal message. Now, we can use merge fields for some things, of course, but generally speaking, I want you to just be personal with that. But having said all that, if we're talking about, a transaction or a listing, and we're talking about just the minutia, for example, closing information, this is actually like a large field that you could fit a lot of information into, or the home warranty premium, or just access information, right? Like all of those things can automatically be brought into a template so that you can use it. And the simple question that most people have whenever they learn that you have this capability in Realvolve is, well, how do you do it? Right? And so what I want to do is I just want to give everybody ever so quickly just a quick tutorial on how to build a template using these merge fields. And then we can kind of go into some other stuff like, Mark, if you think there's any other stuff that's good to mention. So I'm going to click here and I'm in my template library. And I want to create a new template. And rather than adding one from the library, I'm just going to author a new template. And we're just going to hit continue. And now this is not a tutorial on templates, but I won't go too fast. I'm trying to think here of probably what the best kind of template to make for this example would be, but let's go ahead and just make a transaction template. Pardon me. So the use with field here needs to be transaction. Mark, why do we differentiate between transaction, property, and contact? Like what are we thinking?
So the underlying link to the data is what's important. So if I'm doing a workflow on a transaction, I have to know what transaction it is. Well, if I know what transaction it is, then I know the buyers, the sellers, I know the price, all that kind of stuff. But if I'm trying to do a transactional type of template, but I'm wanting to use listing information, it won't know what property to link it to, or if I'm trying to use it on a contact, it doesn't know it. So we're telling it what we're using it with. We're using it with a transaction, and therefore it's going to give us the transactional merge fields, and then it will link the data to the template at the time that it goes to send it out. Just real simple.
That's great. So here, what I'm doing is I'm going to create a transaction summary. Right now, this transaction summary is essentially going to be a document that I could possibly, let's say after we go under contract or we go contract to close, right? This is maybe a document I might want to send out 1.5 a day to 2 days after we go under contract. Sooner the better, right? But what we're going to do is we're just going to say, we're going to use our first merge field. And this is the subject of my email, right? So watch this. This is how we make our merge fields. I'm going to type bracket. Now, the first thing I want to put in here is transaction street address. And what we're going to do is we're just going to write transaction street address summary. So for example, if we were working on that other transaction that I had earlier, this subject matter line would literally say 1076 Holly Drive summary. And that is something that you can easily pick up. Everybody who receives that is going to know immediately what it is. It's going to autofill this in.
I don't know if you guys caught what he just did as well. Whenever he used the 2 square brackets, he started typing in the name of the field that he wanted. And he didn't necessarily know all the full content of transaction pound street address. He just typed in address.
That's right.
And then whenever we display the list of fields, whenever you do the 2 square brackets, it will do an automatic search to find anything that matches what you're typing after the 2 square brackets. So as you do it again.
Let's do another one. So Mark, if I wanted it to just give the first name of the recipient,
Okay.
which merge field do you think would be the best one to use for this one?
The greeting. In this
Okay.
case, in every contact that you send stuff to, there is the first name field and the last name field. If they are a husband wife, the wife has a first name and a last name as
Yeah.
well. So we do have what's called a greeting field, which whenever you're sending it to a married couple, the greeting field will have the two first names of the people that are linked together. So you do bracket, bracket, and then greeting would be the best one
Yeah.
option to use.
So in that case, then what we'll do is we'll just type bracket, bracket. And you know what I like about what you just said, Mark? It's automatically greeting. We just put that one at the top because we knew that that was one that we always wanted to have on the ready. So I'm going to say hi greeting. Now, quick tip, go back a little bit and just put in a comma because it's going to, like, so if it's like hi Mark, it would literally say hi Mark, comma, right there, right after the brackets. So,
and if the record again is married, if it's a married couple or they're got in a relationship or whatever, it'll say hi Mark and Kathy, or hi, you know, if there's one name, it'll use this one. If they're linked to each other, then it would use both.
yeah. So what we will, so let's just bang one out that we might, now we're going to kind of cut out the fluff, right? But here, comma, you will find a summary for, and I just typed bracket, bracket again. Now, I want transaction street address. I just know that from experience. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in street, and now look at what I've got. Current user street address, primary user, transaction street address, direction, name. I mean, there are a lot of things. Like I can do 1031 exchange agent third home. You know, like we have a lot of capability in here. Well, we'll keep it simple. Here you will find a summary for, and there's our address. Now, Mark, what are some fields that we should probably put in for our transaction summary?
Well, typically you're going to want like
Like
the
dates.
sales price. You might want the closing dates, contract date, depending on in your area what you call it. The drawing a blank here. The date that everything was approved on. You've
Yeah,
got to
okay,
sign.
yeah. Well, yeah, let's do price. So let's put in a price merge field, right? So I just put in price and then I put a little colon in here. And if I just start typing in price, transaction sales price.
There you go.
That's simple. What else can we do? Well, let's do something like closing date, and then bracket, bracket. And you can see I just start typing in closing transaction closing date, right? What are some other things that we can put in here? Home warranty, right? And we're just going to type that in, or you know, we could do closing costs, for example. Nobody knows about closing costs till they buy a home for the first time. And so if I just start typing in cost, well, no. No, we'll just do home warranty.
We don't actually do the closing costs.
Well, you could put it. What I usually would counsel someone to do is like just put it in notes or something like that, you know. And that's if that's kind of a workaround, but you know, and obviously as you know, representing a buyer, you know, you're going to be talking to them and coaching them on what the closing costs will be. But home warranty coverage, deductible, expiration date. Let's just do the deductible. So we're going to do that right there. And you can actually see how I'm starting to really bring this up. Now, you know, maybe I want to make this pretty or just have two things, you know. We could easily build a table. That's what this little icon is over here. And, you know, with our table, we could, you know, make the size of everything. And we could kind of make this look a little bit more official or fancy. We can even determine the width and the colors and all those things. You know, I'm just literally showing everybody here all the information that you can use. But, you know, just to kind of do some of this. Those are just some of the details that we're doing. Maybe we would want to do other important information. And here, what I could do is I could just put in, let's go back over to our thing here. Option, closing information. Okay, so I'm just going to start typing in closing information right there. And so whatever I put in here under closing information is going to get put in here. So one of the things that I would always recommend is if you are putting something in a field, like what you see here, or like important contract notes, right? Make sure that you write it in a way that you know it could easily be lifted from here and placed into a template neatly. You can always edit a template before it goes out. You can set it to do that, right? But you always just do it well this first time here, using proper punctuation and capitalization, etc. You know, or I could have used the other information field too. Like we actually have quite a bit of information that you can use. So home warranty premium. But back over here, I think maybe the final thing that I would want to do, important contract notes. Yeah, you know, like, and that's of course where you can put in, you know, your, you know, all the different stipulations that you might have. You know, so stipulations, and then I'll just do, there we go. Important listing notes, no, important contract notes. So that's just an example. Those are details. Now, if I wanted to, I could go back through here and I could start plugging in my important dates. Now, this maybe seems a little tedious, but here's the deal. You make this template once, you've made it. You can alter it, but you're going to save it. You're going to make it and you're going to save it. And just to kind of give everybody a sense of what this maybe could look like, watch this. I'm just going to type in summary. And I've actually downloaded duplicates by accident. But you could, using a table, just like I explained to you all, create something that looks a little bit more like this. Party members, important dates, closing information, and I can add more things in here too, right? Like I can import, I can add contract notes in here if I want to. This is just dates, and I've got buyer report, all this stuff right here. Or if I go to transaction summary itself, no buyer report involved. But you can kind of see how, as long as you are filling in the information properly whenever you create either the transaction or the listing for that matter in Realvolve, you can have something that looks a lot like this. And by the way, you could easily make something like this and just edit it, you know, and save multiple variations of it. You know, this right here is transaction street address, transaction sale price, sellers, buyers, seller agent, buyer agent, title company. I could add an escrow officer in here if I wanted to. Like I could actually add a lot of different things in here. But that's just kind of an example of what you can do with merge fields. And frankly, you know, I also work in FirePoint. And you know, with FirePoint, you know, FirePoint's mostly like a lead gen thing. It's an agent's best friend. Well, one of the things that I do love about Realvolve, and I'm not saying this to poo-poo on anything else, but one of the things that I love about Realvolve is that Realvolve can really work with an agent, but also Realvolve is just firing on all cylinders when you're working with your TC and your office manager. Your office manager, probably more than anybody, loves Realvolve, because Realvolve is how you're going to keep all those plates spinning. Realvolve is great for a TC. Mark, what's the record that we're aware of a TC using Realvolve in a year for? How many transactions?
I have 262 or something like that. Transactions with a single transaction coordinator using Realvolve. It's like amazing.
Bad. Yeah, that's not too bad. You know, we've had agents, you know, who were just kind of themselves in an assistant. They've done well over 100 transactions in a year. You know, that it's all very possible. Having little things like this helps a lot, because legitimately, like, and you know, can any of us really bang out something like this each and every time quickly? No. I mean, honestly, if we're being real, what we probably end up doing is we probably end up skipping it, and we just keep playing tag on our phone. We just keep playing tag. Oh yeah, sorry, contingency is, you know, and by doing it this way, which don't get me wrong, opening up Realvolve, plugging the information in, whether it's a transaction or a listing or just a contact, and making sure that we fill those things in. That for some of us, for someone like me, frankly, is a new way of thinking about working because I just want to do everything by the seat of my pants. But my goodness, you can save so much time if you streamline and if you're just consistent. Because a document like this would take me 45 minutes to fill out if I was an office manager. It really would. Or I could have it in 90 seconds after just a quick edit, before I send it out to all the various interested parties. So merge fields are powerful. Merge fields take information from either our contacts, our properties, or our transactions, and they put them in templates for us so that we can save time, especially in the long run. And the best part of it is if we just bite the bullet and we get it all set up, you only have to do it once. Maybe you got to edit it a little bit later. But then the other thing that I really think is important, it's crucial, in fact, is that Realvolve help is there. So often, our Realvolve help, our chat people will, get messages and things that they really don't have a lot of ability to help with because maybe, it's like, we don't own your Google account. We don't tell Google how to code and all that stuff, right? But one thing that we do know is our product. And when you jump on Realvolve chat and you say, hey, so-and-so, what merge field should I use for this particular situation? They love that because they really are the experts at that. So if you're ever stalled or if you're ever having trouble figuring out what merge field to use, like maybe you liked that text message that I used for, that listing, requesting the photographer to reach out to me and giving them all that information. I can do the exact same thing for my stager. I can send information to, like maybe I'm shopping loans, and so I can have a document pre-prepared to send to different loan officers, talking about who my sellers are and the property that they want to get. I can do the same thing with my appraiser whenever it comes time to, when we're binding or when we're contract to close. Same thing with escrow. I can send all this information to all these different people and I can do it automatically. It takes a little time to get it all plugged in, but we are legitimately here to help you do it. So, Mark, what are we missing?
So yeah, the big piece of this, which is the creation of this, is extremely important. Creating the template so that it can go out and present the data as need be. That's marvelous. It's wonderful. There's one more piece that I personally think is probably just as important, and it's probably even more important, is getting the data into those fields. So, you showed how you can go into a property transaction, a contact, and you can type in the information into the database, and certainly you can do that all day long. One of the things that I incorporated into this process was process. And if you think about what you do on a daily basis, you're collecting data. Maybe it's not you, maybe it's your assistant. And your assistant needs to know, where do I put this data? Well, he or she can go into the contacts, properties, transactions, manually type in the information. But if you set up a process, if you set up a workflow that's got activities in there, you can use our checklist option. And in those checklist fields, you can also have merge fields. The difference is in those checklists, whenever you have a checklist in an activity, it will display the value that's currently in that field. But if it doesn't have a value, it'll be blank. And if it's blank, you're able to fill in the blank. It will put that data into the correct place in the database for you for the linked contact, property, or transaction that it's associated with, so that whenever you send out your templates, they don't contain blank information. So it's the challenge is, if you use a template, you want to make sure that the data is actually there. So creating activities in your workflow that have you verify the values of those fields and also give you the ability to enter information into those fields is a huge time saver, because you don't have to go searching for that field. You don't have to go looking where is it at or whatever. It just knows what property, transaction, or contact it is that it's needing to collect the data on. And the field itself, the merge field, says, hey, here's the value, or hey, here's the field that you need to type it in. You type it in, you hit save, and it puts it into the database for us automatically.
I love it. It's so true. Well, Mark, so I totally took inspiration from what you were saying. Hopefully it'll load up pretty soon here, but I just started just a really quick in process sample workflow for this listing, 110 East Freeman. And exactly what you said is what we have built into this. Now, it's a little cluttered here. I could probably zoom out and make it prettier, but it literally here says verify parties for 110 East Freeman. So if I were to do what Mark was talking about, and I just click on this little yellow box here, look at that.
So here, what it's doing is saying, okay, this activity says, I want to verify that I've got certain fields filled in. Do I have the seller 2, the photographer, the stager? And if there's no value in there, you can pick the value. You can pick who is the photographer, who you can from the database. You can, who's the stager. Once those values are filled in, they're in the database then for that particular property or transaction, contact, whatever. Then you know that it's filled in, and whenever you send the template, the values will be filled in as well.
Yeah, so like
in this case, there may not be a homeowners association. It's not there, so you can actually click on it twice, which puts a little circle slash on there, says, hey, I know I'm asking for it, but hey, they don't have one. It's just not there. So leave it as it is, and then goes on. At that point now, it goes in, and if you look in the people tab, it will create the correct people in the people tab for you. Likewise,
that's a great point. If we go to people, like Mark said, there it is, Jim Gordon.
So it creates the link. It does all the magical linking that is required to make sure your data is consistent. Now, the beautiful part of this is you can have an assistant that doesn't know anything about real estate, that doesn't know, even how to use Realvolve necessarily, but they can go to a calendar and they can check off that they did something, right? It's just a checklist is all it is. So you go to check that activity. Oh, I need, such and such field. So if you go down to, are there any other fields that you got? Order photos. It's got a checklist. What does it have on there?
Well, it was more of a make sure you have all list details filled in as much as possible.
Just hit close on that one. That's okay. But if you wanted to have them verify is the price filled in? Is the closing date? These different types of things can have. In this case, these are just static checklists. Static meaning they're not fields. It's just text on there, so you check them off. But you can also, in a merge field or in an activity, create merge fields that have something like this, where it's got a field to the right of the description. And whenever you type in information into it, it will then put that information into the associated merge field and be there from that point forward.
Also, their cat sheds a lot of fur. So I just edited this note, right? We're going to do that. And we're just going to hit save and close. Oh, I can also send homework to the sellers. But we're just going to hit save and close for now. Now that I've done that, if we go back to 110 East Freeman, and if we go over to the listing tab, Also, their cat sheds a lot of fur. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it automatically goes in there just like what Mark is talking about.
And that's the beauty of Realvolve is setting up the process, setting up the system for what you do in your business. Now, what does that afford you? That affords you time because somebody else can be doing the tasks that are tedious, that
Mhm.
that have to get done, and it doesn't have to be you. It can be a part-time assistant, it could be a high schooler, whatever. They're doing the tasks for you. That frees up your time so that you can then turn around and do the things that's important to you, and that's building relationships with people to gain more trust in buyers and sellers for you.
That's right. And let's do one other example of like exactly what Mark is talking about here. So let's go to Ken Hurley. And I've got some data here and here, and let's just go to the radar tab. And I want to get some information. I want to get Ken rolling on something. I'm going to click start a workflow here, and I'm going to do, let's just say contact nurture. He's in my sphere. I don't want to miss anything. We're going to click next. Okay. Now, this right here, of course, is my workflow startup wizard. Many of you are familiar with this. I don't, Ken's kind of I don't like to bother him too much. So I'm going to get rid of this quarter 2 and this quarter 4. And, also, he's never purchased a home with me. And he's never bought a home with me. So for now, we're just going to get rid of these 2 little guys right there. We're going to click next. And we're going to click next again. Now, the one thing that Realvolve wants to know is, like, so what's Ken's birthday? And I actually happen to know that it is October 14th. So we've got that dialed in, and we're just going to click done. Okay. Now, this is just another really great example, because let's say you've got a whole list of people in your sphere of influence, and you want to reach out to them on the regular, and you also know that you want to update their details, but you don't feel like creating a lead and then updating their details and then starting a workflow, or creating a big spreadsheet with all that information as well. This is an alternative. Let's go to our dashboard. And of course, I've got all sorts of stuff here. Let's actually just go to Ken Hurley's contact record. Okay, so this workflow that I just started wants me to do a quarter 1 touch with Ken. So I'm going to click on this, but watch this. Just like Mark said, look at this checklist that I've got built over here. So last email date, I have no idea. We're just going to double click. Last call date, I'm going to go ahead and call Ken today. So there we go, November 10. It's going to automatically update his record. Home mobile, yep. Home email, yep. Any notes?
These are verifications. Is this the right mobile phone? Is this the right email address? And it gives you that capability. Now, the notes field is a little bit different in that even if you have existing notes, they won't show in there. This is an add-only option, so you can add more notes to the activity, or to the contact, property, or transaction based off of whatever you type in here. So the notes, you can't verify that you've got notes. It doesn't really make sense to, but you can certainly add new notes to it.
Yeah. So while building materials are pricey. There we go. Home address. I could do that right now, but I'm in a hurry. Was he ever referred to? No, he's just an old friend. Birthday. Yeah. So we're just going to check that off. Double click here. Double click here. Family birthdays. Don't know. Don't care. Contact type. Is he a client? Farm. Well, he's kind of personal for me, but we'll say he's a client type. That's that's what we're hoping for. Stage. What kind of stage is this guy? Well, we know each other. Well, that's not totally true. He actually trusts me. We've just never done business before. Contact status. Well, yeah, he's not really any of these things in a sense. But if you want, I don't know. We'll just call him lead.
Yeah, I put him in as a lead if you've not ever done any business with.
Source. Where's this guy from? Well, technically church. So we're just going to put that in there. Category. A, B, C, D. What? He's in my sphere of influence. I don't know, Mark. What would we call someone like that usually? Like a D, maybe?
Yeah, uh, it really depends.
Yeah,
Depends on how you use that category. I tend to use the category itself to identify like the number of transactions that I've done. If they're an A, they've done multiple transactions with me, or given me multiple referrals that have done multiple transactions. If they're a B, they've only done one transaction. If they're a
yeah,
C, then they haven't done any. And then that way I can kind of use them for sorting and stuff based off of their importance to me in my own business.
yeah. So honestly, take the time to edit any emails or texts. We're just going to click here. We called. We don't need to do an email or a text. So we're just going to hit save and close. Now, the main reason that I was just so primed to want to do this is we're going to let Realvolve do a little bit of, a little bit of calculating and a little bit of processing. But
Just hit the
everything
radar tab right there. It'll refresh real quick.
on the radar tab,
Yeah,
boom.
there you go.
Ken might want to buy in 9 months or so, but more importantly, he's a local developer with several projects on hold while building materials are pricey. Go to the contact record. All right. We don't see anything here yet, but we will before you know it. If we go to classifications, he is a trust, a lead, no client type really, though we could go and fill this in. I just didn't put that in my merge field list. Under lead details, I don't really have anything to put in there, but if I were to go into source details, yeah, there he was from church. Contact dates, last call date, November 10th, that automatically filled in. So you can see all these things are indeed slowly filling in. If we go to the radar tab, let's just refresh our browser really quick, see what happens.
And the real benefit here again is you've got one place where you're entering all the data and you're not having to click around to each of the different fields where those things are stored. So you're saving yourself time by creating a workflow that has activities, that has the checklist of things that you personally want to make sure are filled in. You fill those in, or somebody in your team fills them in for you, even better yet, and then the content is there. And as you fill in the content, the relationship score that's in the upper right will start growing, and that's how you start identifying the important people. The more data you have on them, the more that you do with them, it will start growing as well.
Yeah, look at this. I mean,
You went from 16 to what's that number in the middle?
50.
50, just by filling in some extra information. And I don't know, how many people actually realize or understand that relationship score, but that's a huge piece in Realvolve in understanding your data. And most CRMs that are out there, they may have like a lead score, which is different than a relationship score. I'm not aware of anybody anywhere that has that. Whenever we developed that was a matter of basically simulating, if you'd almost use the idea of a world simulation, a digital representation of your relationship with that person. We know that if you collect a lot of information about them, you probably know them a lot better, your relationship's better. If you don't have much information on them, you probably don't know them as well. So there's different things. There's like 13 or 14 different points of interest that we use to help identify that relationship. And it's more than, like I said, other CRMs out there. It's more of a garbage in, garbage out. You get out of it what you get in, what you put in. But with us, we're actually taking that data, we're building it, we're massaging it, we're calculating information off of it to relay back the importance of your database to you. And as you create those relationships, your scores go up on more people. Your R factor, which is what he's showing right there, the relationship factor for your overall database is growing. And whenever it grows, that means your business grows.
That I really like what Mark is saying here because I have a little bit of a background in what's called A/B testing. Most of your marketing and political messaging all has that involved. And right now, in my little faux account, we're not really getting very good data because I just don't have enough information in. But let's say I had 100 transactions in Realvolve, and I start seeing that my average contact score for prospects and leads and clients and past clients really starts to flesh out. Well, I know with a fairly high degree of mathematical confidence that if after, say, 50 to 100 transactions, the average past client score in my database is, say, 75, and the average client score is, say, 68 or something like that. Now, it's going to be different for everybody because we're all in different areas and they require different outreach. That's why it's important to do this. If I just know in my area, with my business, with my personality, and all my pros and cons that come with me, that I need to get someone up to a score of 70, typically, then you will actually increase your business over time because it's game theory. It's actually like a real thing and it works. So
And
now, granted, in A/B testing terms, you probably need about 200 instances of something to have like a really high confidence threshold. But frankly, there are some of you using Realvolve who might be watching this who've done 300 or 400 transactions over your career. You know, use the power of data, and we're doing the math for you, so you might as well.
and it comes back to, again, using those merge fields to collect the data, so you're not having to spend a lot of time just entering data for, going from screen to screen. But
Absolutely.
that goes back to your question, what did you miss? And it's like, that is a huge piece.
Yeah.
If you really think about it, the ability to share the information is amazing, and
Yeah.
it'll save you a lot of time. But the importance of getting the right information in there, verifying it, validating it, but getting it in there quick is really the magic. It's what makes everything run smoothly.
That's such a great point. In reality, what we've done is we've streamlined your data entry process and we've streamlined your sharing process. And, I always tell people this, and, this is not a hard and fast number, but my goal or my dream for anybody using Realvolve is if I could just save you 4 to 5 hours a week of administrative time, imagine what your time is actually worth. I contend that most of you who are really out there and ambitious, most of you are at least worth $150 an hour, maybe more. And I don't think that that is a boisterous or absurd number. I think that's realistic. And so if we can get that time back, literally in one day, you can pay for Realvolve for the whole year, right? Doing your lead gen, doing your meetings, all those sorts of things that we want you to do that you're really truly specialists at. And so
Awesome. That's it for me.
yeah, that's all I got too. Bobby, you got any questions, or for that matter, Sue, do you got any questions? Happy to take them.
I'm good. There's actually a transaction I'm working on now that I have to, for some reason, I lost the buyer contact information, and I think it's a 1031 exchange. So I need to confirm that and fix that. Yeah.
Yep. I've
And
my wife
that's another part of creating those activities to verify that information is important. If you have some kind of activity in a workflow that says verify these people, do I have them or whatever, and if I don't, then making sure that it's filled in is real important.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, listen, everybody, it's great, and I could have prattled on, but really having Mark here to kind of keep our compass pointing north, really appreciate it. And
absolutely, I love doing this
with all of you. It's an honor for us to have your trust in your business. And I always say this, but don't struggle quietly. Make noise. Get on the help. Or even ask questions. Our Facebook community is really pretty kind to one another, and we're here to help you. And Realvolve as a company is not the kind of company that can afford to neglect our people. You're valuable to us, and we love interacting with you. So happy Wednesday, everybody. And y'all take care, and let's, like I keep saying this every week, but let's keep rebuilding this economy. I think we can do it. So it's going to happen first. We'll talk to everybody soon.
Bye, everyone.